Hello, everybody. Looks a little dark where I am. Maybe that's a little bit better. Hello, everybody. I am reading again. Sorry about yesterday. I do not know what happened. I tried to stream for about, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it was not working for me yesterday. So you got to love technology. So I am going to read chapter 3 and 4 today. That is about it. Yesterday, like I said, some technical difficulties. So hopefully today everything will work out okay. So we left off with, let's see, that the friends went to go find Will. And when they went back to the beach to go get Will, after they ate that fruit that made them go to sleep, it says, an indentation in the soft sand showed the spot where Will had been lying. Their friend was nowhere to be seen. So here we go. Chapter 3. And that was, let's see, the chapter started at 10:50 p.m. And this says, oh, I see. Because I was like, wait, this says 10:50 p.m. and this says 10:35 p.m. So we're going back in time a little bit from what happened with the kids, the three of them, to now we're going to see what happened to Will. Chapter 3, day 1, 10:35 p.m. When Will Greenfield finally regained consciousness, it was sudden with a start. One moment he was in faraway, dreamless place, and the next he was sitting up, awake, alert, wired even. Where am I? His voice was hoarse and scratchy. Man, he was thirsty, hungry too. And what a headache. It was pitch dark, but he could feel the sand beneath him and hear the ocean. What was going on? Had he fallen asleep at the beach? He tried to think, but he couldn't focus on anything past the pounding of his head and the relentless gnawing in his stomach. His brain was in a fog. He could almost see it, waves of silvery gray mist. The mist shouldn't be visible in the blackness. Think, he ordered himself. The last thing he remembered, he had been on the plane bound for Guam and charting a new course. His sister, Lisa, got the extra peanuts and, big surprise, refused to share. Peanuts. He could sure use some peanuts now. Forget the peanuts. Think. Guam. This must be Guam. But what happened to charting a new course? And where was Lisa? His freckled features formed a nervous frown. His parents had sent him and his sister halfway around the world for CNC. The trip was supposed to teach them to get along. It was a huge deal to Mom and Dad. Big money, too. If he missed it, they'd never forgive him. Lisa was already their little darling. That would only get worse if everybody was mad at him. He felt white-hot rage. Lisa did this. She set him up so he would miss the trip. Only, why couldn't he remember her doing it? Why couldn't he remember how he got there at all? He stood up, muscles very stiff. How long had he been sleeping? Wait a minute. These weren't the clothes he had been wearing on the plane. He was clad only in shorts and a t-shirt, both absolutely ruined. Oh, Lisa was going to pay for this one. He began to explore the beach slowly. His feet were unsteady. He felt as if he might overbalance and fall flat on his face at any moment. There was just enough light for him to make out the ocean on one side and a jungle of palm trees on the other. What he couldn't make out was anything else. No people, no buildings, nothing. Guam wasn't exactly New York City, but it was a place with towns, an airport, a marina where the Phoenix CNC's boat was supposed to be parked. Not parked, he reminded himself, moored. He stopped in his tracks. How would he know something like that? He was totally clueless when it came to sailing. Will? Came a voice from the distance. Lisa? No, the voice was male. Will, where are you? Now that one was definitely a girl. Lisa? He broke into a sprint. Lise, I don't know what kind of joke you think this is. He pulled up short. 2 boys and a girl were running across the beach, staring at him as if he'd just come back from the dead. Lisa was nowhere to be seen. Who are you? Demanded Will. Where's my sister? They froze, eyes widening. The first boy, the leader, took a cautious step forward. Will, it's me, Luke, and Charla, and Ian. Will squinted at the strangers. Should he know these people? They seem to know him. Listen, I think I'm lost. I'm looking for a boat called the Phoenix. Know it? The three exchanged uneasy glance. The Phoenix sank, Will, said Luke. We were all on it. What are you talking about? Will stormed. I've never been on a boat in my life. Where's Lisa? She didn't make it, Charlotte said gently. The four of us managed to get on the raft, but we never found Lisa or JJ. I don't know any JJ. I don't know you. Where's my sister? Will, think, urged Luke. You have to remember, we were all together on the CNC trip. There was a storm and then an explosion. We're lucky to be alive. Listen, Will said impatiently, you've got the wrong guy. My boat trip hasn't started yet. I don't know anything about any shipwreck. Charlotte tried to reason. Please, Will, try to remember. We were shipwrecked together. How else could we get to this island? You mean Guam? Will was exasperated. I flew here with my sister. Poor Will doesn't remember anything. This isn't Guam, Luke said soberly. We don't know where we are. That's your problem. He looked past them into the gloom. Lisa, Lisa. It must be amnesia, Ian said in a low voice. You're crazy, exclaimed Will. No, really, Charlotte pleaded. You were sick on the raft. You were unconscious for days. That's a lie. What have you done with my sister? Luke stepped forward and put a comforting hand on Will's shoulder. Wild with panic, Will shook him off and staggered back. Will, don't, Charlotte cried. We can help you. Like a hunted animal, Will stared from face to face. They were lying, all three of them. They were trying to trick him into... what? Will had no way of knowing. He was lost, so lost. But whatever was going on, these three were mixed up in it somehow. He was in trouble, and he knew what had happened to... and who knew what happened to Lisa? Animal instinct took over. With an inarticulate cry, he wheeled on the sand and sprinted down the beach. He stole a quick glance over his shoulder. They were gaining on him. The girl ran like a cheetah. Leave me alone, he yelled. Desperately, he made a right turn and disappeared into the jungle. Charlotte was hot on his wheels. On his heels. On his heels. I make myself laugh. Okay, anyway. No, cried Ian. If we get lost in there, we won't even find one another. Charlotte stopped just inside the trees. We can't just leave him. We can't help him if we're worse off than he is, Luke argued. We've got to stay cool. But, she began to cry. It starts bad and just gets worse and worse. Losing the captain was terrible enough. I keep seeing it in my sleep. Then Lisa and JJ, and now Will? We haven't lost him, soothed Luke. Maybe the bugs will drive him out of there. They did it to us. And maybe they won't, she sobbed. He could trip and break a leg. He could fall unconscious again. There are wild boars out there. They're not hunters, Ian put in. The Discovery Channel did a show on them once. They can be nasty, but they won't hunt a fellow animal for food. Charlotte was bitter. Will's not an animal. He's our friend. In the jungle, we're all animals, Ian said seriously. We have to hunt and forage to survive. Luke eased himself down on the soft sand. A wild pig means only one thing to me, he said, rubbing his stomach. Bacon. Charlotte sat beside him. We can't even open a coconut. You expect to track a boar, kill it, skin it, and cook it? We don't even have a fire. That should be job one, Ian said positively. A big bonfire would signal ships and planes that we're here. Then we could get Will to a doctor. Charlotte looked out into the great blackness of the sea. Do you really think we have a chance of being rescued from this place? Luke considered the problem. The whole CNC thing is about isolation. They start you in Guam, which is nowhere, and they take you out to go nowhere squared. And this, he gazed around the beach, this has to be even further than that. But they'll definitely look for us, Ian argued. I mean, they'll send it in half the army when some balloonist or mountain climber gets lost. They'll search for us when we don't show back up in Guam. Searching and finding are two different things, Luke pointed out. In case you haven't noticed, it's a really big ocean with thousands of islands that look exactly like this one. Who knows how long it could take to track us down? Months, Charla predicted mournfully. Years, maybe never. Her words seemed to hang there for a long time, underscored by the steady pounding of the ocean. It was Ian who finally broke the gloomy silence. It's not impossible, you know. There are thousands of stories of survival in places like this. Maybe so, Luke said grimly, but I'll bet there were even more that didn't get told because the people never were rescued. Remember, the Discovery Channel can't interview you when you've vanished off the face of the earth. Good point. Good point. All right, this is chapter 4. All right, so chapter 4, day 2, 11:55 a.m., so almost noon. A single ray of tropical sunlight caught the left half of Ian Sikorsky's glasses. Carefully, the boy angled the lens to reflect the intensified beam onto the pile of leaves on the sand in front of him. There was a breathless silence. Then, "It's not burning," Charla observed, worried. "The leaves are still a little damp." Ian's eyes never wavered from the tiny dot of light concentrated on the brush. "No, they aren't," she said. "We've been drying them out on the beach for 3 hours. You've seen how it rains here. They're wet." A tiny but clear note of exasperation. Ian had little patience for people who disputed what was obvious. There was almost an inaudible sizzle, and a tiny curl of smoke rose from the pile. And then a newborn flame. Charlotte let out a sigh of relief and realized she'd been holding her breath. Luke was hard at work using vines to tie together a framework of branches for a lean-to shelter. He ran over to help Charlotte and Ian arrange kindling in a pyramid around the pile of burning leaves. Soon the fire was going strong. Larger and thicker pieces were added and the flames grew. "How big does it have to be?" asked Charla. "Big enough to be spotted from a distance at night," Ian replied. "It'll be hard to see during the day," Luke pointed out. "True," agreed Ian. "But if we notice a plane or boat, we can pile on wet leaves. That'll make a lot of smoke." Wood gathering was a problem. Since they had no cutting tools, their fire had to be fueled by fallen branches and other dead wood. Stumps and thick logs were rare. Thinner twigs were plentiful, but they burned quickly. That meant a huge amount of wood had to be stockpiled to keep the fire going. The 3 castaways made dozens of trips into the jungle that afternoon, returning with armload after armload of wood. It was backbreaking work. The sun was searingly hot, and the crushing humidity weighed them down as if they were wearing 100-pound packs on their backs. Luke was amazed they were able to do it all. Just yesterday, they had washed up on this island, more dead than alive. It showed what a long drink of water and some solid food could do. In that area, things were improving. Just down the beach, a single spike of coral stuck out of the sand. Charlotte gave it its name, the can opener. Coconuts, tough, round, and stubborn, broke like eggs when smashed against it. That morning, she had shown why she was one of the country's top young athletes. She had shinnied up a 30-foot palm tree as easily as she strolled the beach. From there, she sent a dozen coconuts plummeting to her friends on the ground. After durians, coconut meat seemed as delicious and substantial as a 12-course meal. The sweet milk tasted better than any triple chocolate shake Luke could remember. They had also discovered banana trees. Finger bananas, Charlotte called them, because they were small, about as long as an index finger. They were light and sweet and plentiful. It was starting to look like starvation would be the least of their worries. But that was only because they had a lot of worries, Luke reminded himself. Will. He shook his head to clear it. Will was probably okay. They had to look after their own survival first. Then they could search for Will. By mid-afternoon, the shelter was complete. The 3 were as proud as if they had just built a skyscraper. It definitely wasn't beautiful, but it was a very functional structure. The framework of branches and vines were propped and tied against 2 trees at the edge of the jungle. Into it, they had tightly woven palm fronds to create an angled roof. "It won't keep out the rain," Luke had said to Ian, who was the lean-to's designer. "We'll put pieces of tree bark on top," Ian decided. "If you pile them thick enough, it's perfect for waterproofing." Luke grinned at the boy. Ian had been sent on this trip because his parents were worried that he had no friends and spent all his time watching TV and surfing the internet. But now those hundreds of hours in front of the Learning Channel and National Geographic Explorer were starting to pay off. Without Ian's know-how, Luke reflected, they probably would all be dead. Luke and Charlotte took the raft that had carried them to the island and propped it against one open end of their new home. The opposite side, which was going to serve as the entrance, they draped with a large, slightly charred piece of sail from the Phoenix. This had been saved by Ian for the burning boat and used as sun protection on the raft. That just left the back end, the space between the two trees. There, Luke and Charlotte placed another framework of branches with palm fronds basket woven through the twigs. It's not exactly the Hilton, Luke said with a shrug, but it'll keep us dry. The sand should be comfortable for sleeping. They had been working nonstop since the sunrise had awoken them 10 hours earlier. Now the castaways allowed themselves a 30-second period of relaxation. They were exhausted from their labors and still weary of their ordeal on the raft. But when their eyes locked, there was a perfect understanding and agreement among the three. Let's go get him, said Ian as they headed into the woods to search for Will. All right, stopping there. I will read tomorrow. We'll see how much I read tomorrow. Hopefully you like that. And I'm going to keep reading, so we'll see. My prediction is they'll find Will because it's a book. I don't know how they're going to find him, and I don't know what he's going to be like when they find him, but that's my prediction. Time to get more coffee. All right. I hope you guys have a good day. I love you. I will talk to you and see you tomorrow. Hopefully there won't be any more technical difficulties. So I really would like to read this every day and we can finish it up and you guys can enjoy the book. All right. Love you. Bye.